This conference will now be recorded.
Control L, and then I run it. But for some reason, it's not working. You guys can't see it.
Right. Let's go to meeting screen there. Now you need to click on share your screen. And that's the one you want to share.
Okay. Okay, so I have to hit share. I think I just X'd out of it because I thought, okay, good, we're good.
Now you have to share it.
Okay.
Yeah, you need to do it.
Yeah.
Seriously. You don't have a camera going.
Okay, so why isn't Control L working here? Oh, there it goes. All right. I think so.
All right. Sorry, is there anybody out there can hear me?
I can hear you.
Yeah, it's amazing. I had to switch from my computer to my phone for this silly thing to work, but here I am. So.
This is Greg.
Hey, Greg.
Hello.
Testing my mic. Can somebody nod their head?
Hey, Jackson.
Perfect.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello.
Jackson, I'm showing 4:30 if everybody's ready.
Thank you. Sally, everybody ready?
We have some people in the room, so we're trying to get it set up so that we can use a screen in the room so that they can see what's going on.
You need a
And
couple
that
minutes?
just happened in the last minute, so we need a few minutes to get that set up.
We'll give you a couple minutes.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Okay, we are ready.
Okay, with that, we will call the August 5th, 2020 Executive Committee public hearing to order. Let's see, what do I need to do? Zach, I believe you need to do the roll call now.
All right, when I call your name, please signify whether or not you're present. Jackson Bogan,
Present.
Larry Leverins,
Present.
Jerry Reynolds. Jerry, I think you're on mute.
Jerry,
Gary Schroeder,
present.
Tom Murtaugh,
Present.
Greg Jones,
Present.
Carl Griffin.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes.
I move to approve the minutes from the July 1st, 2020 meeting as submitted.
Second that.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? That motion carries. On to new business.
I move to hear and approve the primary approval extension request for Doherty Commerce Center, Part 2, S 3540.
Second.
Okay, this is Don. The Doherty Commerce Center Part 2 was approved about 16 years ago. This is the 6th primary approval extension, 2-year extension requested. Essentially, well, this project is located on the north side of Veterans Memorial Parkway, just west of the Osborne Road intersection, as you can see on the location map. The plat covers 13.6 acres. There's been 7 lots recorded, platted, developed so far. There remains about 4 acres left to go. All the public improvements were put in many years ago and accepted by the city. Staff recommends approval of the extension request, contingent on any applicable conditions that came with the original primary approval.
Okay, thank you, Don. Petitioner or petitioner's representative want to make any presentation or comments?
Hello, Clem here with Tiber Design, standing in for Tim tonight, so hopefully I'll do for you. I think Don pretty well covered things. It's been going on a while. We're down to 4 acres, I guess, left in this development, so we respectfully request your extension, the 6th extension of this, and hopefully we'll get that rest of it final platted in the near future. Have no issues with the conditions that apply.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions from the commission? Hearing none, Ryan, we'll go ahead and pause for 30 seconds for citizen comment.
Okay, stand by.
This is my favorite part. Brian, have we received any at this time? I think you're on mute, Ryan. There you
go. None so far.
Thank you. Zach, if you would please call for the vote.
I call your name, please signify your vote with approve or deny. Jackson Bogan.
Approve.
Larry Leverins.
Approve.
Gary Reynolds. Jerry, I think you're on mute. We'll come back to him. Gary Schroeder.
Approve.
Tom Murtaugh.
Approve.
Greg Jones.
Approve.
Carl
Thank
Griffin.
you. Oh,
Carl Griffin approves.
my apologies. Reminder, this is the part where we need to go into the ballot that Diana sent us on Tuesday at roughly 1:57. And we are voting on the Doherty Commerce Center Part 2. And Don, if you would let us know when those are received so we can move on.
Will do. We've got 6 responses, all in favor.
Thank you. On to the public hearing. Meeting procedures. Give me 1 second as I do not have those. Andy, give me 1 second.
You don't have them memorized?
Not just yet. Well, I'm looking for the meeting procedures.
You want me to go ahead and read mine there, Jackson?
That would be wonderful. Thank you.
Okay. I move that there be incorporated into the public hearing portion of each application be heard this evening and to become part of the evidence at such hearing, the Unified Zoning Ordinance, the Unified Subdivision Ordinance, the Comprehensive Plan, the bylaws of the Area Plan Commission, the application and all documents filed therewith, the staff report and recommendations on the application be heard this evening, and responses from checkpoint agencies.
Second.
Thank you, Gary. I found the statement, and for those of you unfamiliar with our procedures, the commission would like you to know the following. When we hear a request to subdivide land, we are only concerned as to whether the actual drawing showing the division into lots meets the technical requirements of our ordinance. The question of appropriateness has already been determined. Anyone wishing to make comments or provide us with the information regarding any subdivision petitions will be given the opportunity to do so. We are a 7-member body, and a majority of 7 is 4. Regardless of how many commissioners are actually present, at least 4 votes in favor or 4 votes against are required for our action to be official. If fewer than 4 of us agree to either approve or disapprove an action, that case must be heard again next month. Our vote on a request to subdivide is final. When addressing the commission, please state your name and address for the record. Please limit your statements to no more than 5 minutes. We ask that you not repeat what others before you have already said. Cell phones must be turned off while in the meeting this session. If you need to make a call, please step out of the virtual room before making your phone. All exhibits presented to the commission become the property of the commission. And we move.
You need to call for a vote.
Yep. My apologies. I moved on. So now, in regards to, I'm killing it today, if anybody's wondering. We are going to call for a vote. All in favor of the motion Gary made and Carl seconded.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed. That motion carries. Gary?
I think I have a continuance here, and I move to continue S 4930 Elston Acres Minor Subdivision Minor Sketch to the August 19th, 2020 Area Plan Commission meeting.
Second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? That motion carries. On to subdivisions.
I move to hear and vote on S 4922 Blacker Minor Subdivision Minor Sketch.
Second.
Kathy?
Okay, petitioner's property is located near the southern edge of the town of Clarks Hill. The property is zoned R1U. It's single family, residential, urban. Here's a look at the aerial photograph and a closer look at the property. You can see there were a couple of mobile homes there. I believe there's still 2 mobile homes there. Possibly one has been moved out already. But what the owner of the property wants to do is to take these 4 old platted lots and create 2 more usable platted lots. Here's a look at the sketch plan. So you can see lots 90 and 91 will become 1 lot. Lots 92 and 93 would become a second lot. The required, excuse me, the required 60-foot right-of-way is already in place, so no further dedication of right-of-way is needed. All 4 of the existing lots have sewer and water, so no public improvements are required. Staff is recommending conditional primary approval contingent on 4 conditions, all of them standard.
Thank you very much. Petitioner or petitioner's representative, would you like to speak?
Yes, I'm Tamara Peters with Fisher Engineering, and we don't have any problems with any of the conditions.
Wonderful. Thank you, Tamara.
You're welcome.
Any questions from the commission? Hearing none, we'll take about a 30-second pause. Ryan, if you would let us know if you've received any citizens' comments after such time.
Okay, just a minute.
We're at the 30-second mark.
And no comments.
Okay, hearing none. Zach, would you please call for the vote?
When I call your name, please signify your vote with approve or deny. Jackson Bogan.
Approve.
Larry Leverins.
Approve.
Jerry Reynolds. Jerry may be having some technical issues. We'll come back to him. Gary Schroeder.
Approve.
Tom Murtaugh.
Approve.
Greg Jones.
Approved.
Carl Griffin.
Approve.
Thank you. And here again, a reminder, we have a ballot on this. and it is S4922 Blacker Minor subdivision. Don, would you please let us know when they have been received?
Will do. We have 6 ballots filled out, all for conditional approval.
Thank you very much. On to Ayala Minor subdivision.
I move to hear and vote on S4927 Ayala minor subdivision, minor sketch.
Second that.
Kathy?
Okay. Petitioner's property is located on the the northwest corner of US 52 and County Road 900 South. The property is zoned AA, Select Agricultural. It's a 4.83 acre parent tract. So this will be the first division from that parent tract. Property to the south is zoned AW. Town of Stockwell is a little over a mile to the west. Here's a look at the aerial photograph. You can see the old platted lots of Monroe right down here. Here's a closer look at the aerial. You can see there is an existing house and a couple of outbuildings. Here's a look at the sketch plan, sort of tiny. You can see lot 2 is a flag lot. It has frontage on US 52, but no access. The access will be from this 30-foot wide tail connecting it to 900 South. The existing driveway for this house is already in place, so there will be a no vehicular access statement platted on the final plat along the Sagamore Parkway frontage. So there are 6 conditions of approval and they are all standard. We are recommending conditional primary approval.
Thank you, Kathy. Petitioner's representative wishing to speak?
Yes, good afternoon. My name's Bob Gross with R.W. Gross and Associates. This is Kathy did a fine job with the report, and all the conditions are fair, so we would like approval.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mr. Gross. Do we have any questions from the commission? Hearing none, Ryan, we'll take that 30-second pause for citizens' comments. If you would check that and let us know if you receive any, please.
Okay, will do.
We're at the 30-second mark.
And we have no public comment on this item.
Thank you. Zach, would you please call for the vote?
All right, when I call your name, please signify your vote. Jackson Bogan.
Approve.
Larry Leverins.
Approve.
Jerry Reynolds. Gary Schroeder.
Approve.
Tom Murtaugh.
Approve.
Greg Jones.
Approve.
Carl Griffin.
Second. Approve.
6 votes in favor.
Thank you. And reminder we are completing the ballot at 4927 Ayala Minor Subdivision. And Don, if you would please let us know when those are tallied.
Will do. We have 6 responses, all for approval.
Thank you very
Thank you very much.
Thank you. On to S 4928, Franks Fields.
I move to hear and vote on S 4928, Franks Field minor subdivision, minor sketch.
Second.
Kathy?
Okay, petitioner's property is located near the corner of South Creasy Lane and South Street. It's located right here. Property is zoned general business, as is all of the properties out there at that intersection. Eastland Drive is just to the east, which is zoned R1. Cordy Corner subdivision was originally platted in 1990. Over the years, it has been replatted several times. This current request is for Lot 8, which was replatted in 1993 as 2 tracts, Lot 8B, which is just where this building is located, and Lot 8A, which is surrounding it. Here's a look at the aerial photograph and a closer look. This was the old Marsh store. This is currently a fitness business. And then this sort of portion over here is used by affordable family storage, which also has this building. So the whole point of this replat, they're not creating new lots. They're basically making Lot 8B larger to include this area of this building as well as some parking. So here's a look at the new configuration for Lot 8B, which would do something like this. Hopefully you can see my little cursor. So the necessary easements are already in place for both sanitary sewer and water. The city says both lots are already completely developed, so we do not have any drainage concerns. As I mentioned before, since Lot 8B is going to become much larger, it will now actually have parking, although parking requirements for retail establishments are much bigger than the parking requirements for self-storage. So likely a lot of this parking will go unused. Staff is recommending conditional primary approval. We have 3 conditions, all of them standard.
Thank you, Kathy. Petitioner or petitioner's representative, would you like to speak?
Yeah, this is Todd Starr with Starr Associates, 215 Alabama Street. As Kathy did, she did a great job of explaining what the project was about. Really don't have anything else to add other than answer questions if need be.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Starr. Do we have any questions from the commission? Hearing none, Ryan, we'll take that 30-second pause for citizens' comments.
All right, stand by.
For 30 seconds.
And we have no comment on this item.
Zach, would you please call for the vote?
When I call your name, please signify your vote with approve or deny. Jackson Bogan.
Approve.
Larry Leverins.
Approve.
Jerry Reynolds. Absent. Gary Schroeder.
Approve.
Tom Murtaugh.
Approve.
Greg Jones.
Approve.
Carl Griffin.
Approve.
6 votes in favor.
Thank you. And a reminder, we're voting on S 4928 Frank Fields minor subdivision. Don, if you would please let me know when they are tallied.
Will do. We have 6 responses, all for approval.
Thank you. On to S 4929 Northfleet commercial subdivision.
I move to hear and vote on S 4929 Northfleet Commercial Subdivision, Part 3, a replat of Parts 1 and 2 minor sketch.
Second.
Kathy?
So we have a lot of replats on our agenda tonight. Excuse me. This is another one. Norfleet Commercial Properties on the north side of Brady Lane. It's zoned I3, which is industrial. There's a little sliver of floodplain along the north line that's associated with the Elliott Ditch, and that floodplain has already been certified. Property to the west is zoned R1. There's just a couple of houses along Brady Lane right here. Property to the east is also zoned R1. That's actually the county highway garage property. Here's a look at the aerial photograph and a closer look at the property. I believe there's a building under construction right here. Here's a look at the sketch plan. So lot 1 is only changing slightly, and then they're platting lot 2 and lot 3, and then this outlot is for a detention basin, basically. No additional dedication is necessary according to the city engineer's office. The driveway accesses have been thoroughly discussed over the course of the prior platting effort. The city has no objection to the no vehicular access limits and access points presented. Sanitary sewer and water are both available. And there are 7 conditions of approval, all of them standard. We are recommending conditional primary approval.
Thank you, Kathy. Petitioner or petitioner's representative want to make a comment?
Yep, Todd Starr, Starr Associates, 215 Alabama Street. As she was stating, there's a Move Over Outfitters is currently constructing on that east lot. We had to shrink it down a little bit because they didn't need that much property. Other than that, we just needed to create a couple more lots for the pond and one for another building going west of Move Over. But she did a good job explaining what was going on, and I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Starr. Do we have any questions from the commission? Ryan, we'll take a 30-second pause for citizens' comments.
All right, stand by.
Thirty seconds has elapsed.
And no comment on this item.
Okay, Zach, would you please call for the vote?
When I call your name, please signify your vote. Will approve or deny. Jackson Bogan.
Approve.
Larry Leverins.
Approve.
Jerry Reynolds. Absent. Gary Schroeder.
Approve.
Tom Murtaugh.
Approve.
Greg Jones.
Approve.
Carl Griffin.
Approve.
6 votes in favor.
And a reminder, we're voting on the S4929 Norfleet Commercial. Please don't forget to complete your ballot. And Don, if you would let us know when that is complete.
Will do. We have 6 responses, all in favor.
Thank you. On to the approval of the August APC public hearing agenda.
I move that the following ordinance amendment be placed on the August 19th, 2020 Area Plan Commission public hearing agenda. UZO Amendment Number 97, Business Park and Gateway Directory Signs.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries.
I move that the following subdivision petition be placed on the August 19th, 2020 Area Plan Commission public hearing agenda at petitioner's request. Placement thereon being without reference to compliance or non-compliance with the adopted subdivision ordinance. And those would be S 4931 Paramount Minor Subdivision Minor Sketch, and S 4932 Crosser Commons Minor Subdivision Minor Sketch.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
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 All opposed? That motion carries.
I move that the following rezoning petitions be placed on the August 19th, 2020 Area Plan Commission public hearing agenda. Those would be Z 2798 West Lafayette Public Library Leasing Corporation, Anastasia Kurtulis West Lafayette Public Library PD, PDNR to PDNR, Z 2799 Stents LNHS LLC, EDMX to R3, Z 2800 Joshua Shivers A to GB, and Z 2801 Wallach Communities NB to R3.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries. On to the approval of the August ABZA public hearing agenda.
I move the following petitions be placed on the August 26, 2020 Area Board of Zoning Appeals public hearing agenda. BZA 2042 Zern Vess and BZA 2043 Reasons LLC.
We'll take a second on that.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? That motion carries. Determination of variances, Lafayette Division.
I move the following request for variance from the Unified Zoning Ordinance is not a request for use variance prohibited from consideration by ordinance and statute. Case 2020-15, 720 Capital LLC.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
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 All opposed? That motion carries. Review and approval of the July budget report.
I move we approve the July budget report as submitted.
Second that.
If you take a look at the budget report in the packet and look at the expenditures this month column, you'll see that we had a very light month, so I don't really have anything to report that would be unusual or of interest unless you have any questions.
Anyone from the commission have any questions for Sally? With that, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? That carries. We have no other business, and Gary will take that motion for adjournment.
I move we adjourn.
There we are. So moved, and virtual gavel is on to you, Mr. Leverins.
Thank you, sir.
I feel like I really crushed it there at the end. I mean,
Great rebound.
thank you. Thank you. I felt like Jordan in the second half against the Pacers years ago.
You're pushing it, Jackson.
All right. Zach, are we okay to go ahead?
Yeah, you are. I'm trying to find my role real quick, but I will have it in 1 second.
Okay.
Jackson probably has it.
All right, I'll go ahead and call the August 5th meeting of the Ordinance Committee to order. And Zach, let you go ahead and call the roll if you have that, please.
All right, when I call your name, please signify your presence. Gary Schroeder.
Present.
Jackson Bogan.
Present.
Vicky Pearl,
Present.
Tom Murtaugh,
Present.
Jerry Reynolds, absent. Carl Griffin,
Here, absent, present.
Greg Jones,
Present.
Larry Leverins.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you, Zach. First item is approval of the minutes of the July 1st meeting.
I move that we approve the minutes from the July 1st, 2020 meeting as submitted.
Second that.
Have a motion and a second. Any additions, corrections, comments? Hearing none. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? That motion carried. First item of business is the business park signage, which came back to us from the full APC meeting. Kathy.
Thank you. So I have included all of the staff report that went out in your packet. But I think what we really need to look at is this here. So originally, staff made a proposal that was changed by ordinance committee in July. Staff came up with a slightly different, well, I guess actually, this is our new different proposal, the proposal for August ordinance committee. First of all, the business park gateway directory signs section is unchanged. I think we're all in favor of this part of this amendment, so I won't waste a whole lot of time on this. The sticking point, I think, is the number of freestanding the maximum number of freestanding signs that we would like to change. Currently, the zoning ordinance allows one freestanding sign per each road frontage. And we've always felt that that was just too much. We're fortunate that most business owners have not taken advantage of that, but I would just like to see us fix this so we're not taken advantage of in the future, I guess. So originally staff wanted to see this changed to one freestanding sign per 2,000 total linear feet of all road frontages. So that's probably taking it too far. We've come up with a compromise position, which is in green on your screen, one per street frontage up to a maximum of 2 signs, which shall be separated by 500 feet of total street frontage. So what that means is if I've got a business on a lot that has, say it's 200 feet by 200 feet, it's on a corner, I would only get one freestanding sign, but I would really only need one freestanding sign. If I had a lot of, say, 200 feet by 400 feet, then I would be allowed 2 freestanding signs, but they would have to be separated. So that's the main difference in the proposal right now. I should also say we've been working with Chad and Debbie Mann of Mann Properties pretty closely all along with this proposal. But I hadn't really heard from the city of Lafayette. So I did contact the city and I did get a response back from them if you're interested in hearing what Lafayette had to say. Regarding the number of frontages, I did not see an issue. This is from Dave, by the way, Dave Griffey. Regarding the number of frontages, I did not see an issue with your original goal of going down to 2. This would have eliminated some ambiguity and really wouldn't have changed things a whole heck of a lot for anyone. For the frontage signage in general, the direction you're heading seems reasonable to me. I don't see any reason why Lafayette would not participate in these changes. The other change would be to currently to determine how much signage a business is permitted to have, they can calculate using every road frontage they've got. I was trying to narrow that down to just 2 road frontages, but I would be willing to go with 3 road frontages as a compromise position. So that's what I've got. Sally, I don't know if you want to add to what I've just said.
Well, the only thing I'd like to add is what we're really trying to do is reach some kind of parity between what a business park will be able to achieve, which is each business in the business park will be able to have a sign on the business park sign and one freestanding sign on their lot. So to make parity between lots in a business park and freestanding lots or standalone lots, so that the standalone lots don't have a super sign advantage over somebody being in a business park. We think that this compromise will still get us that kind of parity, but without the overreach, I think in staff's opinion, that the individual standalone lots have had in the past.
Thank you, Sally and Kathy. Comments, questions from the committee?
So Kathy, explain to me, you said that if there was a corner lot 200 feet by 200 feet, they would be allowed 1 sign and not 2. Is that correct?
With this new, excuse me, this new proposal in green, it's 1 per street frontage up to a maximum of 2, but it has to be separated by 500 feet of street frontage.
Okay.
So if your lot is only 200 by 200 feet, you've only got 400 feet of frontage.
Okay. And what if they can't put, in that particular situation, a sign that could be seen from both streets?
Well,
go ahead, Sally.
Oh, I was going to say, think about the gas station at Ferry and 9th. They have 1 sign angled at the corner. You don't get, there's not so much frontage that you can't see the sign pretty much anywhere as you approach it from either side. So that's the kind of lot that would sort of represent the 200 by 200.
Okay.
Yeah, there's no limit to where they can put that freestanding sign.
Okay. It seems like some corners, though, might be, the corner itself might be unavailable due to utilities or, signals and, that type of thing. Would that not be the case? Where a sign couldn't be placed at the corner?
No, that's absolutely true.
Well, yeah, most signs, though, most of those utilities, there might be easements, but most of those utilities are in the right of way, and the sign can't be in the right of way anyway.
True.
And even a monument sign has to be set back from the property lines the same distance as its height. So which is part of the sign ordinance that gives you an advantage for having a monument sign, because you get to put it closer to the property line. So if you have a sign on a pole that's 20 feet tall, then your setback is 20 feet from each property line. But if you have a monument sign that's 6 feet tall, then you only have to be 6 feet back. But nobody is ever actually right at the corner.
Okay, so you don't ever foresee a situation where a corner lot actually couldn't put their sign on the corner?
Well, I don't think so. I suppose you could have a lot that had a really obtuse angle where you might have difficulty from one approach seeing a sign, but I can't think of too many locations where we have that situation. You know, maybe some of the roads that come into 52 South, where 52 is angled and the intersecting roads are east, west, and north, south, but that's the only situation I can really think of.
Does anything limit a petitioner from having two signs on one pole sign? I mean, so that it could be seen from both north and south and east and west?
You mean two signs perpendicular to each other?
Yes. Yes, exactly.
Well, there is, I think, we allow two-sided signs, but I think the angle between the two signs is, there's a limit to how wide you can angle those signs and still call it one sign. In other words, this is how close do they have to be one sign?
Right, so on a perfect corner, they'd be at 90s, right?
Well, on a perfect corner, you wouldn't need an angle at all. They'd be flush. It would be a two-sided sign.
So if you are on a corner that has traffic coming from both north and south and east and west, you could have a sign sitting here and a sign keying into it so that it could be seen from all directions.
That
Or
would
you
be
could
two
have,
signs.
you could have a, go ahead, Sally.
That would be two signs.
So that would be two signs.
Right. The angle, I don't remember what it is. It has to be like less than 20 degrees or 30 degrees to be considered one sign.
Can they still file for a variance on this?
Yes.
Okay.
I have a different question. So when we all started talking about this, the speedway situation on Creasy and 38 was like our example.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, what's the ballpark square footage? Where do we come up with 500 feet? And I'm trying to put that in perspective to this speedway project, which we used as an example. So would that be in or out of this box at this point?
So that was the one I looked at because originally we were talking about 600-foot separation, but with 600-foot separation, this speedway would only get one sign. So changing that to a 500-foot separation, it could have two signs, but it would have to be separated.
Separated, what you mean, like one on, for this purpose, one on Creasy, one on 38 type of thing?
Correct.
And separated by 500 feet.
By 500 feet, yeah.
Right. So they would actually be closer to the entrances. I should have printed out the aerial photograph for this property because we've talked about it so much. But if you can picture in your mind, the driveways are actually not that close to that corner. They're pretty much further south on Creasy and further west on 38. So they could probably put these two freestanding signs closer to their entrances as opposed to the two signs at the corner, which they've got now.
Which is really what we want for visibility for traffic, is signs really should be at the entrance. Otherwise, people will go past the entrance before they get to the sign.
Kathy, when you say 500 feet, are you, is that 500 feet along the edge of the property line, or is that 500 feet point to point? Do you know what?
I guess I was picturing property line, which is the
Okay.
right-of-way line.
Right. I agree. We're talking about a sign, then you go down the property line, turn the corner until you get to 500 feet.
Yeah. Okay.
And is the term street frontage, is that an unequivocal term? Will that be clear to everyone on exactly where that's measured?
It's a defined term in our zoning ordinance.
And that is your intent?
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Gary here. As Kathy said, and kind of myself, I haven't really noticed signs, so I started looking to try to locate those businesses that did have 2 signs. And most of them are on busy roads, 4-lane roads, maybe 26 and 52. There's one there, the Speedway, which are 2 4-lane roads. And I don't know if we're trying to solve a problem that really hasn't happened. I think I said signs are expensive to install and maintain, and people are using other forms of advertising. It's kind of changed where they're doing online advertising, and actually some businesses have very small signs compared to the business that they have. Walmart, Sam's, Menards sign is not very big. When I'm traveling out of town, sometimes I can't find those places. So, and I think I said before, if we do this, we are going to make some signs non-conforming. So people built their business, and I think businesses are different. Gas stations use different signage. They want to advertise their gas price. Other businesses just kind of want to say, here we are. And back to Speedway, those are both right in, right outs, because that's kind of a modern development next to a busy corner. So you really can't make left turns into any of those businesses. You have to go down and come back. And I think the Marathon across the corner was probably put in before Creasy was extended, and they just have one sign on the corner that I think they do. I haven't paid that much attention, but seems to serve them okay. But gets confusing for me. I'm okay just to leave it the way it is.
Anyone else?
Well, do you care if I speak again?
Go right ahead, Sally.
Part of the issue is that we really want to encourage the collective signs at a business park, so that there is the name of the business park and then everybody who is in that business park, because a lot of those lots will not have frontage on the main street. They'll have frontage on internal streets. So they're a little at a disadvantage. And having a business park sign will sort of bring up their advantage by having people notice who's in there right at the entrance to the business park. The issue really is we want to encourage that. And the concern is that why would Culver's go to a business park if they could go to if they could find another lot that had 4 frontages and have 4 signs? So what we're trying to do is make sure that we aren't putting business park owners at a disadvantage just because of the sign allowance. When in fact we are trying to encourage business parks and particularly business park signage, so that everybody is advertised at the entrance to the business park.
I think, Sally, that's an important point. It's playing out certainly in Sagamore comments. And I think that one of the things that's come through to me is that we're looking at some exceptions, a very few group of of exceptions, and those exceptions still have the route of coming through as a variance, and if they really prove their point, they get the variance, and we can handle it that way. So I think your point about making it an even playing field is an important one.
Larry,
Gary,
Gary, go ahead.
Go ahead. Okay, Carl. I think that Miss Mann from Indianapolis was forward thinking on this, because it is a disadvantage to business parks not to have signage on the main road. And I'm thinking that's considered an off-premise sign. So I think it is a plus for business parks to be able to do that. And I think she stated she wanted to be able to give her customers, here's the signage that you're allowed, and we're going to be able to put signage at the main entrance to tell them that you're back in the back. And I'd say that was a problem at Creasy and 26 when Sam's and Walmart built, and then some businesses built behind them that could not advertise, Marsh, and there were some strip centers back there, and eventually they were not successful. So I think that business park is a very good plan and does benefit that if that's the way. I think there's a natural advantage for those business park developers to be able to do that. So I think it's a positive thing.
Would we be covering with the wordage that is in green? Do we think we would be covering 90 to 95% of the sign settings that that we encounter, on a monthly basis? With the either the owner or the developer being basically pretty happy with that wording.
I think so. Sally?
Yeah, I do too. Over the years, we often hear from national chains where, the chain says to franchisees, here's what you have to have for signs. Or a sign company that says, oh, you've got to have all these signs to be able to be seen. Well, we know from, as I think you said, Gary, going around the country, there are lots of places where signage is smaller than even we require here. And those businesses do just fine. Because it really isn't about the sign. It's about the quality of the business and how they treat their customers and the quality of their product. So we could have the most liberal sign ordinance in the world, and we would still get pushback from some national chains and their sign providers. But I think in general, most people will be satisfied.
Thanks, Sally. Anyone else? Comments? Are we ready to send this latest proposal to the full APC? Although we did put it on the agenda.
Yeah, I think we're ready for a vote.
Did we actually put both of them on the agenda, or just the?
You just put an ordinance on the agenda. You didn't say which one.
Right.
Well, I meant for the for our ordinance committee. I don't think we have anything on the up for a vote yet. I don't think we have a motion yet.
No, we do not have a motion, and I will entertain a motion.
I move that we vote on the presentation that has been made here in green.
So Carl, your motion is to put forward the latest proposal from staff, the very last page of our agenda, or yeah, our packet.
That is my motion.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, got a motion and a second. Zach, do we need a roll call?
We will. You might call for any further discussion, then I'll do a roll
Okay,
call.
yeah. Okay. Yeah, anything else anyone has to say, questions or whatever?
So currently no public comment on social media.
Okay.
All right.
I have one more question before the vote. Have we had any violators of this in the past?
Violators?
Yeah, I'm struggling a little bit with putting something in place that I don't feel like we're when we're putting something in place that we may or may not have. We may not have a problem currently. And so then my question is, what's the purpose of this piece of?
We don't have any violators. Someone would need to get a variance. I mean, we hear variances all the time for signage. I guess I would say if our ordinance is too liberal, why not make it more the way businesses have been getting permits for signs currently, if that makes sense.
Could I go back and give a little history lesson?
Sure.
Under the ordinance before the current one, which was initially adopted in 1998, we had the sign ordinance did not take into account things like speed on the adjacent road, how far back the building sat from the road, and those kinds of things that really impact what people can see when they're driving. And we had a ton of variances. I mean, it's how all the ugliness on Teal Road happened. So when we wrote the current ordinance, we said, well, let's make sure that we take into account the things that are important for people when they're trying to find a business, like how fast are you going on the abutting road? How far back is the building from the road to be able to see fascia signs? So we took all that into account, and then we tested it based on properties that had received variances, thinking that the community standard was what had been granted as variances. So the new ordinance, the current ordinance, matched what had been granted as variances in the past. And as many of you know who have served on BZAs, now that's not good enough. So now people come back and they want variances from the standards that used to be fine in the community. So the more allowances we give, the more people are going to push it. It's just the nature of the beast. So I'm in favor of making the ordinance reasonable to fit what our community standards represent, because inevitably there will be variances. And that's okay if they can meet the tests for a variance because their property is unusual and the ordinance isn't creating their hardship, then by all means they should get a variance. But making the ordinance reasonable to begin with, so that we don't keep going up and up and up and up and up through the variance process, is important to me as a community planner.
Do you think this would trigger more variance requests?
I think what I'm saying is that the more liberal the signage allowances are, I don't think it will trigger more requests or reduce requests necessarily, but whatever the standard is, somebody's going to come along and say, it's still not enough. And that will create the variance. And then it'll be commonplace to issue variances for more and more signage.
Can I comment on that? Chad Spitznogle, building commissioner.
Go ahead, Chad.
When Jimmy John's moved into the old dough shack by Vaughn's, they were allowed 40 square feet of sign area, and they had requested 48 from the BZA. They got denied. I have used that specific denial by the Board of Zoning Appeals on dozens and dozens of sign requests since, and I don't think there's been too many sign requests in West Lafayette because they've been scared that, you know, they just can't have an astronomical use of signs. So I think I agree if there's an exception that the city would be willing to accept as a variance request, the variance is still an option. I'm not saying, but I think it's best to put it in the hands of the zoning, the BZA to make those approvals. For instance, with the new Culvers on Sagamore with 3 frontages, I was just doing their calculation the other day, 198 square feet of sign area. That is plenty. So I think anything, you know, that we can just keep as low as possible. And if they need an exception, we'll go through the variance process.
Thanks, Chad.
Gary here for a comment. First, Chad, we did hear that case. Hopefully I can comment on it. And I think that kind of, or at least my thought was, that's a pretty tight area, low speed limits, mostly foot traffic. There was no need for that sign, and obviously that did not get approved. Now, if they're out on a 4-lane road, that may be something different. But yeah, I think that was appropriate. And back to Sally's comment, thank you for the history lesson, because I think you did solve a lot of problems by looking at speed, distances. And I'm wondering, should those also be considered into this other change? If it were to get approved, it seems like now there's a standard without considering where those are located, because 9th and Ferry is very low speed, small area, the business is close to the street, opposed to some areas that are near major highways, and they have a pretty good setback. But, you know, I'm not sure. I think you did solve some problems with that, taking into consideration speed limits and setbacks.
Anything else? Are we ready to vote? The motion on the motion on the floor is to send the latest proposal to from staff to the full APC.
And this will be your recommendation to the full APC, which wanted you guys to vet this.
Right.
So it's on the agenda. All right. So when I call your name, yes in favor of this, no against this current version. Gary Schroeder.
No.
Jackson Bogan.
Yes.
Vicky Pearl.
No.
Tom Murtaugh.
Yes.
Jerry Reynolds. Absent. Carl Griffin.
Yes.
Greg Jones.
Yes.
Larry Leverins.
Yes.
All right, 5 votes in favor, 2 votes against, and it's already on the agenda. So they will get that recommendation at full APC. They'll discuss it, and we will go from there.
Okay. Thank you. Ryan, would you like to talk about the introducing us to the Discovery Park District form-based overlay, please?
I'd be happy to. If I could have my screen shared, please. let me know when it's on.
Larry, are you taking care of that?
No.
No, I meant Larry Ackerman.
Not that Larry, the other
Sorry.
Larry.
Okay. That looks good, I think. All right, can everyone see the 231 corridor plan sheet there?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So this slide presentation was emailed to the Ordinance Committee, and I'm just going to give you a very brief overview of how we got to this point. And it starts here with the 231 corridor plan. And in its implementation strategies, I've sort of highlighted here Objective B, Strategy 1, and it says to investigate the creation of a university overlay district to better realize the mixed use potential of areas along and adjacent to State Street. And so this is sort of the this sort of medium priority item moved up to more of a more pressing priority because of PRF's activities, mostly done through the plan development process of late, and everyone can see the construction that's going on out there. But for those who don't remember, we had a future land use plan for the 231 corridor. Here it is in its entirety. And then the south sector, the blue section, is the innovation mixed use district that was called out. And this is a land use category, this isn't zoning. And that category is sort of defined and roughly illustrated here with these images. A very urban, kind of a mid-rise environment, 4 or 5, 6-story buildings, that sort of thing. A fairly diverse mix of uses is what was prescribed, and this really came out of our discussions with PRF as they were going through their own sort of internal planning process for the Discovery Park area and for the immediate vicinity around it. So that led to several discussions with the team at PRF, and many of them are present. If there's any questions committee members have of them after I'm done, I'll invite them to join in the conversation if there's anything to ask. But where we're headed is with that 231 corridor plan, there was a conventional rezoning of the entire corridor to existing zoning districts that are available in our ordinance. And a vast majority of this land in the blue had been owned by the university, and so it was all zoned agriculture. So it needed to be upzoned to something more useful, to something that is closer to the vision of the plan. So at the time, the Discovery Park district area, which is roughly bounded by this boundary here, was all zoned to the OR district, the Office Research District, which PRF is very familiar with in the Research Park area in the north side of the city. And so we got rid of all that ag land, and then the Providence area was zoned to a multifamily district. It's now a planned development and is in development presently. So the idea was to address both conventional zones and then the actual form-based overlay, where we're just looking at development standards within this geographically defined area, regardless of the use of the property. And so Chapter 7 in the zoning ordinance is our form-based overlay. We currently have one subsection for the Centennial neighborhood that was approved a few years back. And so what we're doing is proposing a second subsection in Chapter 7. And so the way Chapter 7 is structured is that we could have essentially an unlimited amount of neighborhood-based form-based overlays that are specific to an area that has a geographic boundary. And so this is our second installment in form-based code. And PRF was eager to sort of embrace this new zoning tool. And so there was, based on their own internal planning work. And so for many, many months, even prior to the shutdown period due to the virus, we were already in developing ideas for form-based overlay, drawing from what we've already learned from the Centennial neighborhood, but then trying to find something that fits this neighborhood, this emerging new neighborhood that PRF is creating. And so first they agreed to a boundary, and all the land here it sort of reflects land that is you know, that PRF controls, and if I'm mistaken on that point, I'll let them correct me, but the intent is that this is part of their master planned area for the Discovery Park District, roughly bounded by State Street, Airport Road, Jiskey Drive, and then just north of State Street at the McCormick intersection, those two sides of McCormick. And the details you all have, so feel free over this month to go through this document. If you're familiar with the Centennial process, there's a lot of familiar verbiage, but a lot of it has been adjusted to fit this environment in Discovery Park. So I'm obviously not going to go through all this, but we have uses that are prohibited. We're also working with Zach to establish certain exclusive uses to this district as well. And we're going to try to find the pathway forward there. But then in 734, we have the building types, the different building type environments for this neighborhood. And we get into all of the architectural elements, which form-based codes heavily use, prohibitions and permitted types of materials and features, and just about everything you could think of. And then we address buffer yards, other miscellaneous requirements, and then we get into the details of the buildings themselves. And based on what underlying zone they have, those buildings could take a different, have a different character to them. And so we sort of have just general graphic of the bulk requirements for these buildings. And then based on the zone, there'll be some changes. And so we have, a typical row house, townhouse type look. Remember, this is meant to be a very urban environment. So we're not having single family detached homes in this area of the city. And then the more standard kind of more block, full block building, typical of a CB environment in Lafayette, for instance, or CBW in West Lafayette. We have streetscape requirements. The plan developments that are already are either in development or finished in Discovery Park really set the tone for this subsection. And we had a lengthy and productive discussion about that. Parking requirements that are specific to this neighborhood. It gets pretty elaborate. And then we provide reductions when you mix uses together. Loading, and then a fairly detailed signage program that is, again, specific to this neighborhood, as well as some prohibitions on signage. So we're really trying to look at all aspects of kind of the physical built environment. And then, as with form-based overlays in general, the underlying zone controls uses only. And so if someone has, so presently, PRF is interested in rezoning the Discovery Park area, sans the planned developments that are presently there, to the Central Business West Lafayette zone, because it's a much more downtown oriented zone. And it has a more diverse mix of residential and commercial uses. And so, say that rezone's accomplished, and then later they want to do perhaps a heavy industrial rezone on a very small little area where they want to do some manufacturing. Well, then they could come in for what we would normally consider a spot zone, but it doesn't have the negative connotations it used to when you talk about form-based overlays, because we're again, the form-based code itself controls how the buildings will look. What goes on in the interior is controlled by the underlying zone. And so when the city would hear a rezone case, they should just be focused on the use, because they already have a sense of what the buildings are going to look like, because it's already been essentially pre-programmed in the code. So in PRF's estimation, the OR zone doesn't quite achieve what they thought when they originally agreed to go to the OR zone. So I think there'll be accompanying this UZO amendment will likely be a rezone amendment to eradicate all or most of the OR zoning in Discovery Park in favor of the CBW zone. Lastly, I just wanted to leave some definitions. This would be changes to Chapter 1. These are some innovative uses that PRF is interested in bringing to this neighborhood. And they really don't have an interest in necessarily these uses being allowed in, say, the CBW zone in other parts of the city. And so that's why we are going to work with Zach to try to craft this so that these somewhat unique zones, urban agriculture, for instance, if agriculture uses in a CBW zone are not permitted. But we want to try to craft a specific use that will be ultimately, if approved, defined in Chapter 1, and then dedicated to this this neighborhood, this geographically bound neighborhood, Discovery Park. So as we kind of go through what state code will allow us to do to have exclusive uses in exclusive places, these are the sort of uses that that PRF is bringing to the table: urban agriculture, pilot manufacturing, hospital uses of a more diminished size as opposed to the giant campuses, on Lafayette's east side. Micro production of alcoholic beverages, specialty food production, etc., as well as a specialty gateway sign, mostly for the benefit of the university itself, to promote, hey, you are now entering Purdue University. Not entirely unlike the new one that went up at State Street and Grant, in front of the Union Building. Those sorts of kind of just entrance, gateway, gathering place signs. So we're ultimately going to be looking at an amendment to Chapter 7 to expand it to include this neighborhood and development requirements within it, and then changes to the definition section. Also, along with this, we had promised creating an opportunity for multifamily uses in the OR zone itself. So in the event that PRF decides to maintain some OR zoning, there will be as a permitted use, an option for multifamily in the OR zone. And the way we are going about it is via footnote to ensure that it is above the ground floor. So we're looking at an urban mixed use sort of setting. And we think that this probably will have some utility, certainly in the research park on the north side of the city. But even the city of Lafayette has shown interest in possibly bringing this zone into Lafayette, which it currently doesn't have OR zoning anywhere in Lafayette. And they see there's been some interest on their side to possibly kind of liberalize the OR zone to include this use. And so that will also be accompanying this package of zoning amendments. So that's kind of my presentation. I wanted to just sort of introduce this effort and sort of express to you that it's been many, many months of work, very productive work with the team at PRF to bring it to this stage. And there's a lot to go through and a lot to read. And so we wanted to give you, we felt that at least a full month to kind of scrutinize it, shoot questions to me, ask questions of PRF. They're available tonight. And then, of course, over the course of this next month, and then leading up to our first ordinance committee meeting on this, we'll be able to more formally get into the details. And in the interim, do feel free to shoot me recommendations for any proposed changes, or perhaps there's a typo we missed or something like that. But this we want this to be a collaborative effort, and we just want to make sure the committee members are informed and understand what we're doing, and that they can become part of this process as we try to bring this vision to reality. So I'll wrap up here and answer any questions if there are any.
Are there any questions from the committee? Any other comments from anyone from PRF or anyone else out there?
Rich, we can't hear you. Sorry.
Okay. No other questions? Anyone? All right. Thank you, Ryan. We'll take a look at this and everyone get back to Ryan or with your questions, comments, whatever, and we'll see this next month.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I was in and out of the meeting all the time, but I heard most of it. Jerry Reynolds here. Thank you.
Okay, Jerry. Any citizens comments? Sally, you want to give us 30 seconds or so?
We did get an email from Steve Clevenger, who suggested that in the business park signage, that he recommended that the proposal to section 3 say shall be separated by at least 500 feet of total street frontage, so that it doesn't get interpreted as it has to be exactly 500 feet. So I don't know if you, by consensus, allow us to make that change. I think that makes sense.
Anyone object to that change?
No, as the one who made the motion, I agree. I think that's fine.
No objections.
Okay. All right, we'll go ahead. We'll go ahead, Sally and Kathy, and make that change if you would, please. Good.
Okay. Yes, I'll make that change. Thank you.
Any other comments? All right, hearing none. I need a motion.
Move to adjourn.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. And we will see you in a couple weeks.
All right. Good night.
Very good. Thank
Good
you.
night.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.